Hi, everybody. Steve Tarter and another edition of PJ Star's Tarter Sauce. And my guest today, I'm happy to welcome Henry Litchfield to the building. Henry, in your beard, welcome here.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Henry, you describe yourself as a retired salesman.
That's right.
How long have you lived in Peoria?
Since mid-'60s.
Mid-'60s. So you know your way around here.
Yeah.
Before we get into movies, because Henry and I met, I think initially, we might have crossed paths before this, but when I was down at the Apollo Theater, we were putting on some film shows, and you were a pretty good regular. You like those films, and you like to come see them in the setting that, of course, they're meant to be shown in, which is the theater. So you and I got to talking about movies, and I thought, let's bring it here. So that's one thing we're going to talk about. But before we do that, you went door to door in your time.
Well, I in my past life, I've been several things. You know, short order cook, gas station attendant, went to school to become an aircraft mechanic, worked at that for a while. And then I thought, hey, I don't like doing this. Why don't I do what my grandfather did and what my dad did and what my uncles suggested that I do, get into sales. So I ended up as a door-to-door salesman and worked my way up to selling copy machines, printing equipment, and ultimately computer systems. And finally I had enough of that. And but sales is an ongoing game. Life is a selling game. You're either, selling a product to somebody else and making them want what you have, or you're trying to convince the other person to see your way. Whether it's a woman that you're trying to romance or a
things you learn on this show. See, folks.
Yeah.
Well, what were you selling door to door?
Cutlery, knives, Cutco.
Knives.
Yeah. A company that's still around. I see them down at the State Fair every year.
Really?
Yeah, they've got a booth down there, and guys that were my age 50 years ago, or I was their age 50 years ago.
What was your opening line at the door? Do you remember?
Yeah, we had a cookbook. And hi, did you get your free cookbook from Cutco?
Great line.
Yes.
Who doesn't want a free cookbook?
That's right.
Oh, my
right.
goodness.
Yeah.
That company. No wonder they're still in business.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had it figured out. Yeah, don't go to the door and just knock and say, hey, you want to buy some knives and forks? No. Let's start with a cookbook. And by the way, here it is. Yeah. Oh, that's great. You and I, as I said, met at the Apollo. And for those who don't know, the Apollo Theater is a little theater. It's a balcony that's remained from the theater that closed actually in 1958 in downtown Peoria. And Tom Leiter and his wife, Barb, saved it, salvaged it to the balcony, as I said, turned it into a mini theater. Bob Brandis was the manager up there for years. And we showed for a period of about 9 or 10 years. Well, I won't say we did it religiously, but twice a month we'd show some old movies. And that's where I got to meet Henry. What kind of movies do you like? Now, you see we got this right here in front of you, folks. Classic Movie Guide. That's Henry's. This is his Bible. And it looks like a Bible, something you thumb through every night. This is an encyclopedia, right? A movie encyclopedia. I know I'm showing you the cover. It's all taped over.
Well, it's still available. Barnes & Noble has it.
Okay.
And
not like this, though.
Not like no. They've got a much better cover on it. I picked that up at a secondhand store over in Atlanta, Illinois, for about $20.
Really?
And
you paid $20 secondhand.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That must be a good book, folks.
And like I said, it's still available at Barnes & Noble. It's called Ephraim Katz Film Encyclopedia. So it has everything that you might possibly want to know about film. So if you can't think of a name of the title of a film, but you can remember the name of one of the stars, look up the star's name in there. Then there's a film biography of ones that they've been in. And then you can go to the other book, which is Leonard Maltin's film encyclopedia, and you can cross-reference and figure out the name of the film.
Henry, you are aware of this thing called the Internet, right? I mean,
I'm aware of it, but I'm not a subscriber or participant of. Even though I sold computers for a number of years and made a very good living, when I got out of it, I got out of it. So,
it's back to the books.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hard copy. Yeah. But the interesting thing is, the internet it's a two-edged sword. It can do a job on your adversary, but it also can cut you. And look what it's done as far as who's in the control of this country.
Well, look, right now, Facebook's facing all the criticism and sort of has to explain itself. Why are you giving away all this information? What about, and when we talk about movies, obviously you've seen a few. You like to find out, the goods on them, so to speak, who made them. Give me a couple of movies that you think people should watch that maybe they aren't always aware of. Kind of underrated, lesser known, however you want to describe it.
Okay.
What comes to your mind in that?
Well, you asked me earlier, what was my favorite movie, Casablanca, but that's an easy one. And we were talking also about a movie that Peter Sellers did called Being There.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a political black humor comedy as to this half-wit who had been kept in the house of a rich industrialist, and I'll leave it to your own imagination as to why that happened, or why he was there, and but he died, and so he was
the industrialist died.
Yeah,
right.
The industrialist died, and Peter Sellers he plays a role called Chauncey Gardner, and he was a gardener that just all he did was garden and watch TV and use a remote control to change the channel. Well, he was thrown out, and through a set of circumstances, he ends up in the house of another industrialist, and then he's looked upon as being this brilliant sage because he would just mention, obscure things about growing trees and if the roots are healthy, the plant, and he becomes an advisor to a president of the United States, played by Jack Warden, and the other industrialist, and that's Melvin Douglas. Melvin Douglas, first-rate actor.
Oh, yeah.
And Jack Warden, he's the guy that came out of the Second World War as a paratrooper and got into film and had a relatively, successful career. But and then Melvin Douglas, the character, dies, and these other people decide that they should run Chauncey Gardner as the next president. So
that's funny until you realize what's going on right now.
Yes,
another
exactly.
guy who watches a lot of TV.
Yeah. It's black humor, and the guy that wrote it, his name is Jerzy Kosinski. He's an interesting character too. He's a refugee from the Holocaust, and who committed suicide. He had enough of it, and
really,
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
that. Oh,
yeah. It's available on the internet. I had a friend of mine look it up for me.
Oh.
So. But now
you didn't do it yourself. I see.
A couple others that I think are worthy of watching. Facing the Crowd with Andy Griffith. It was his first film, and he plays a no account who's in a drunk tank down in Arkansas someplace, and he's discovered by a number of people and becomes an advisor to a guy that's running for the presidency. Worth watching. Facing the Crowd.
And he was a good dramatic actor.
He was,
Sheriff Andy Taylor, but he did more than that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't watch his TV series, but he played this bumpkin sheriff. But in the film, it's Elia Kazan directed it, and Bud Schuberg wrote it. So right. I mean, you had some really talented people behind that.
Well, I think, and just to digress, but. I think what's often overlooked with Andy Griffith is when they were doing that show on TV, Mayberry, he played off Don Knotts, who was the bumbling. Yeah. Got a lot of the, but for Knotts to be effective, you had to have a straight man.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Andy Griffith played that so beautifully. So there's sometimes good acting gets overlooked or whatever, depending on the setting and who's getting all the attention. Okay, what else?
It's got a couple of names. It's a Billy Wilder film called Ace in the Hole.
Oh, Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, Kirk Douglas, and I forget who significant. Jan Sterling plays the femme fatale in that. But it's about a guy, and it's art imitating life, or life imitating art, as you will. But He plays a newspaper reporter who is down on his luck, and he ends up at a small paper out in the West someplace, and there's a miner who's trapped in a cave-in, and it turns out to be a big circus. I mean, the media's there, and they've got carnival rides and all this, and it has a typical Billy Wilder's twist to it. Billy Wilder is such an interesting character. The other thing that we were going to talk about earlier is the part that Germany played in the development of Hollywood.
And Billy Wilder came from Germany.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. As did 800 other Germans, that were driven out because of Hitler, primarily Jewish.
Right.
So there's Billy Wilder. There's Frederick Zinnerman, the director. He was a cinematographer in Germany. But when he came to this country, the cinematographers union said, "Hey, you've got to join the union. We don't want you in here." So he became a director.
Fritz Lang.
Yeah, Fritz Lang. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Marlene Dietrich, she became a star. But
who was the one that Sunset Boulevard? Of course, it was Gloria Swanson and William Holden, but who played the butler there? That was somebody who came from Germany.
Yeah, it was, and I'm trying to think of his name. Yeah, I mean, he has a history that goes back. I think the film that he did was called Greed, and it was
von Stroheim.
Yeah,
Eric
Sternheim.
Von Stroheim.
Yeah, and he had hundreds of or thousands of feet of film, and they finally cut it down to a couple hours, but he wanted it to go on like for half a day. So
films, the old films, now and again, I think this is the way to go, where you find them and do your own research. But people can watch so many different ways now. Netflix and their YouTube.
Oh, absolutely.
YouTube online at no charge. I mean, we used to run films at the Apollo, as you know, and we'd pay a rental most of the time. And, it didn't really make a lot of sense to pay $200 for an old black and white film, which might be in good shape, when there's only 30 or 40 people in the crowd. And you're not going to get, you might get 150 to 200 back. That doesn't even cover the lights that are on. So, you're running right at the edge there. But now you can see so many things on TV or have them sent to your computer or your TV that's hooked up to the internet. We've never had so much of the past available to us.
That's it exactly. I mean, when I was a kid, and we're talking about the 40s and 50s, if we wanted to see a movie, we had to wait for it to come. And most of the movies that I saw as a kid were in the neighborhood theater, the Esquire Theater in Springfield, which is gone now.
Right.
Yeah. But so if you saw it and if you missed it, that's it.
What about, Disney used to bring his movies around again every 7 years or whatever the cycle was.
Yeah.
So
I remember one in particular that my dad talked about. It was called King Solomon's Mines. He was so excited about that coming to the theater. Well, I didn't realize, but that had been done once before back in the 30s, which now I have both copies. But that's the thing. I have them on DVD. I'm not internet, so I'm not, there's such a wealth of information out there if you know what to look for. But now with the flick of a mouse or going to, and I get catalogs weekly.
Oh, you gave me one at the library.
Yeah, exactly. Because I buy a DVD from some company, and they pass my name around.
Oh, sure.
And I get them from 3 or 4 companies.
We got a live one in Peoria. He's buying films, folks.
Yeah.
It's funny how technology changes. Well, I don't think it's any news bulletin that it's changing rather rapidly. But I happened to mention to somebody that I still got the discs from Netflix. Through the mail.
Oh, really?
Which is how they kind of started. And I get three. I think I quote is 3. So when I send one back, I get another, and depending on the mails. But the person I was talking to, a younger person, goes, "They still have that?" They still say you're one of those people that still gets it in the mail. You know, it's like, yeah, this was a breaking news thing just 10 or more years ago. Just like video stores, you know, you see Family Video out there still hanging in there. Blockbuster's long gone.
Yeah.
But there's still somebody who, you know, keeps feeding the old technology, and maybe it's for the kids, or maybe it's because they got a player, or who knows. We're talking about films here with Henry Litchfield. And Henry and I met at the Apollo Theater in downtown Peoria. We are also fellow members, I guess you could say, of the Citizen, I hope I get the name right, Citizens Advisory
Committee
yeah. At the Channel 47 Public TV in Peoria. You've been on there a number of years. I have.
Oh,
you know, we go
yeah,
way back.
Going back to when Linda Miller was there, so
Yep.
probably 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, and I think I've kind of in and out before that because usually I've been writing about TV or something, and that's always a good place to learn about what's on. I think I will defer to you. You are a big public TV fan. I mean,
Yes,
you
I
watch,
am.
because I know
Absolutely.
when we have those meetings, you're bringing up shows that I haven't necessarily seen. You're telling me, hey, have you seen such and such? It was on last night. So you're well aware of their schedule.
Absolutely.
You don't have cable.
That's correct.
So
Rabbit
you watch
ears.
public TV and the networks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're enjoying as much as you do of public TV. What's the state of public TV Channel 47 in your mind?
In my mind, it's not what it was. It's still the best thing around, only if you compare it with what's on network and what's
The
on
competition.
cable. Yeah. And I'm just appalled at both. You know, once in a while, once I'm changing channel, I'll surf through what's on network, and I can't believe the stupidity of the programming that's on network TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether it's Judge Judy or these mindless no talent programs, and now Roseanna's back. Oh God, I mean,
You were waiting for that.
Oh, I was. Yes, yeah. Fortunate now. You know, 25 years, you know, I mean, she was nothing back then, and now she's on again. You know, and that's the problem. I mean, how many people watched the program that PBS had, Conversation with Bill Moyers? Bill Moyers and Charlie Rose, those were the two pillars of Channel 47 and public television.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm still distraught as to what happened to Charlie Rose.
Who was the Alistair Cook?
Yeah. Oh,
Alistair Cook.
yeah.
I mean, there's certain people you remember, and of course, Carl
Sagan.
Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain people that pop out, and of course, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're the icons that are known to people who don't necessarily watch or saw these shows or people before. You just remember those fascinating people that were on there. And so, what's your criticism of say PBS now? It's running too much. What?
Several things. One is, can you spell repeat? It's repeat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the same program that they showed yesterday will be shown tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
or the program that showed at 10 o'clock in the morning will be shown at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and they have, you know, I think 47 was better when there was just one channel 47 because they had 24 hours of programming to fill. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember when they went to 24 hours. You know, but, you know, a number of years ago they went to digital and then came out with 2 other channels. Mm-hmm. So they had 47, the main channel, 47.2 was World, which was programs of some significance, you know, art or architecture or politics or history. My granddaughter once said to me, this was several years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, she said, how come you know so much? I said, because I watch Channel 47.
You know, she called you a know-it-all.
Yeah, a know-it-all, but I watch PBS, and I don't watch Dancing with the Stars. So, and I'm old. You know, I mean, there is some benefit to being old. You know, I
you
mean,
heard it here first,
yeah,
folks.
Yeah, my grandson, who's 15, he's a smart kid, but he doesn't know anything. He's for Trump. So that says it all. You know, and you and I, you're not as old as I am, but we can look back and you know, 10, 20, 30 years ago, and you know, I look at previous elections. All right, the 1952 and 1956, it was Eisenhower and Stevenson both times. Mm-hmm. If either one would have won, would have been all right. Yeah.
Right.
The past several elections, if either one won, look at what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's something to be said about experience. You know, both Eisenhower and Stevenson had experience, different fields.
Right.
But Eisenhower knew the horrors of war, and he didn't want to get involved in it.
Right.
Yeah. This current one that we have in there, he's never served, nor has his advisor. He's never been in the military, and he's never seen a war that he didn't like. Yeah, scary.
On many levels.
Yeah.
On many levels. But now, in terms of public broadcasting, you watch the news there. You watch their interview shows. There's still quality on PBS.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I watch the BBC. I get up at 5 o'clock and milk the cows and watch the BBC news at 5 in the morning. Actually, I record it.
You keep cows in the city?
Yeah.
That's another story.
In the backyard, the neighbors are very, understanding.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's the mooing that.
It's that rooster that bothers them. That's probably.
Well, I don't have any chickens.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
that's another story.
But anyway, I mean, the news is first rate. You know, the BBC, there's news from Germany at 5 o'clock, the news hour, and again at 10:30.
And it's probably good to get that European perspective.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we're a little too sometimes caught up in our own little.
Well, yeah, we have all this silly stuff on the local news and the morning news programs. Those are just laugh fest. All they do is laugh at it.
More entertainment than news. Yeah,
and that's the thing. I was talking about Bill Moyers a little while ago. Bill Moyers, it was an hour-long conversation, and he said, we are such an uninformed and ill-informed country. We should know what's going on.
Right.
And how do we get that? It should come. The network's not going to do it.
No. But
PBS is the one, and PBS seems to concentrate more on drama. And again, we've got 3 PBS stations: 47, 1, 2, and 3. One of them, where it used to be the World Channel, which was programs of some significance. Now it's 24 hours of cartoons.
Well, let's say children's programming.
Oh, wait a minute. Children's programming. There was a thing on the news the other several months ago, just a piece on NBC, and they said studies have shown that children should not watch more than 2 hours of TV a day.
Or try enforcing that one.
It could be done.
Well,
it could be done.
The parents have to take the lead there.
But so actually, out of 72 hours of programming, Channel 47 has 34 hours of cartoons because there's 8 hours on the main channel. So.
Surely you respect Sesame Street.
I don't think that's on anymore, is it?
Well, I think it is.
I don't know.
I know HBO or somebody grabbed it for the 6-month period, but I think they were going to restore that to PBS anyway.
It could be. I don't know. I'm sure there's some good that's in there,
right.
Rather than the mindless violence that's on network TV.
Right.
But the other thing is the ongoing cooking programs.
Now you're going to get our audience.
Oh, God. We are what we eat. And the thing I fault Obama for is his health care. Health care from everyone, but we are what we eat. We've got to get healthy before we promise that we're going to take care of their medical conditions.
So aren't the cooking shows good? They're showing you how to make good food
Oh, they're showing
home.
how. The one in particular that comes to mind is they were taking pork belly. The chef from North Carolina, she was taking pork belly and putting Pepsi sauce on it. Yeah.
But you watched that show?
What happened? No,
You switched off?
I went out and worked in my garden like Chauncey Gardner did.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's fair. But no, I mean, you make a point. I mean, now cooking has become its own entity on television.
But it's a problem what they're cooking.
Okay.
I'm pretty much vegetarian. So.
Favorite hamburger? No.
This is my year for a hamburger. I have one on even numbered years.
Really?
So, yeah.
One for the whole year?
Well, I had 2 in 2016.
Where did you have it, out of curiosity?
Steak and Shake.
Oh, good. That's a good one.
So,
well, too much cooking, too much kid stuff. What do they need? Do they need to go back to the stuff like the Moyers things? Obviously, you got to find somebody
Bill
like him.
Moyers, if you remember his program, He used to have a weekly program as
I do
to
remember,
current
yeah.
events, and you watch that and you learn something. Also, he had some. I remember one in particular. It was a cruise down the Hudson River, and at that time, dioxin was a real problem polluting the Hudson River, and
Right.
going by the GE plant. They were undecided as to what to do with the dioxin that was on the riverbed in the Hudson River outside the GM plant in Schenectady. And he had Jack Welch on, and Jack Welch was CEO of GE at the time, and he says there's absolutely no scientific evidence to suggest that dioxin is a health problem.
Wow.
So, and I don't know whatever happened. Now there are two things to be concerned about. One is if they dredge up that dioxin down there, how much else is going to be work its way into the water column, and would they be better off to just leave it down there? I don't know what has happened, but and Moyers had a series called A Walk Through the 20th Century. This goes back 25 years ago. And Moyers is the best thing that came out of the Johnson administration. And
He was his press secretary, right?
yeah, he was, and can you imagine? And he talks about his early years with Johnson. I mean, he was going to divinity school, and he wrote to Johnson asking he would like to, work for government, and Johnson calls him in, and he says, you're going to be my assistant. And he kept him in there. He wanted to go back to divinity school, and Johnson said, no, I need to help you.
I need help now.
Yeah, exactly.
That says something about Johnson, because we've got various films about him and books and things of his time, which was kind of, I guess you could say, tragic in a way, because Vietnam brought him down.
Absolutely.
And yet he did some good things. He came from Texas, was, the good old boy network, but brought civil rights and brought a lot of the stuff that JFK had started or wanted to do. He finished it. So I guess in that respect, he did a lot, Johnson.
He did a lot. The thing is, with the presidency, the people that we've had running in the past 20 years or so, even going back to Reagan, I mean, you talk about experience. You look at Kennedy, Nixon, both of them were World War II vets. Both of them college educated.
Right.
Kennedy came from, he had the noblesse oblige. It's our responsibility to do something for the good of the country.
Right.
And Nixon, he has a very checkered past. Even his early election he was running for the House, and he accused his opponent of being soft on communism. And maybe you know this, but and he had papers printed on pink paper, talking about her, that she was,
Right.
a pinko.
In California, yeah.
In California.
Yeah.
But either one, had they won, I still think we would have been all right. And of course, then the tragedy in Dallas. But look, we have a movie star a movie star that really didn't amount to much as an actor, and his last film, he always played a good guy, except his last film he played the
Killers.
A killer, the Killers. Yeah.
Well, you got the hit, Angie Dickinson.
Yeah, exactly. So and he's a spokesman for General Electric, and becomes a governor, a checkered history there as well, and then he's revered now as a great president. So he wasn't my idea of one, but Clinton, at least he had experience in government. George W. Bush, need I say more? And Trump, absolutely no experience. Did he serve on a school board? No. Did he serve in Congress? No. Any state office? No.
Well, he's a TV reality star.
That's the problem. That's the
John
problem.
C. Gardner all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's full circle.
Yeah,
man. Yeah. It's just amazing. Well, we'll see where the Trump. The thing about Trump that I've noticed, it's something that I wonder if we'll ever get out of it, and that's the media feeds on it. And I'm
absolutely.
talking about left and right.
Yeah.
The right certainly is got their guy, or they think they do, or whatever it is. The left, though, it's forever MSNBC, or however you want to describe left or right. That's up to the individual. But it's Trump this, Trump that. We can never talk about anything else. We can never talk about infrastructure, the need for it, to build a road system. No, we got to talk about Trump's doing this and Russian interference, which I understand is a news story, a great ongoing news story. But there are other things that we have to focus on if we want to get anything done. And, we don't get anything done, unfortunately. So that's why we talk about movies, because at least we can get something done.
Yeah, well, I mean, are we ever going to hear the end about Stormy Daniels? I mean, every news program, there's a little clip about, Anderson's Cooper interview with her. I've had enough of that. But, looking back, there's Clinton and his indiscretions, and Kennedy. What we know about Kennedy now, my God.
Oh, yeah. Well, you probably remember the Profumo
that's right.
scandal in England.
Yeah, in England.
Where Christine Keeler,
the
call girl that was big star in this back in the 60s. So we're dating ourselves.
And I forget the guy's name. He was, defense minister or, a high position in British government.
And there was a Russian involvement there, too.
And hey, look at Eisenhower with his driver during the Second World War. Woodrow Wilson. Now that's a whole topic. Maybe we can cover it the next time.
We'll do
why do guys behave the way they do? I have a theory about that.
What's your theory? Let's hear it.
Yeah, do we really have time?
Well, I don't know how long it's going to take.
Well, I'm a believer in evolution.
Okay.
All right. So, and if we evolved from primitive life forms, and if we evolved into humanoids, and the male throughout the animal history has always been the dominant one. He gets what he wants, and that
drags a woman by the hair.
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. The lion,
called caveman.
The caveman, the Neanderthals. And it's only through religion and government and law that behavior is controlled, and then basic human decency. But it's still there. And some people can control it, and other people can't.
Right.
And obviously, if you're in a position of power over a woman, if you want it, you'll take it. Yeah. It's tragic,
It is.
And I'm glad to see that the women are stepping up and they're saying, "Hey, me too. Enough is enough."
Yep.
I have
that this year certainly.
I have a 40-some-year-old daughter, and I have a 17-year-old granddaughter, and I certainly hope. I don't know what my daughter has put up with, but I sure hope my granddaughter doesn't have to put up with what Stormy Daniels or the other playmate is going on. And of course, Trump said to her, "Oh, you're so special." It sounds like Mr. Rogers.
Hey, we go back to Channel 47. That's pretty good. Before we wrap this thing up here, Henry, I got to ask you. You and I most recently were at the theater, not the theater, the library for the film series that we've done there now the last few years. Pardon me, in the month of March. What would you run if you had a month? The Henry Litchfield Film Festival. What would we see? In that.
Well, the two primarily. I can think of four.
Okay.
One is being there with Peter Sellers.
Okay.
One is Ace in the Hole. And it's got another name also.
Yeah, I remember that too.
And I forget what it is.
But you folks can look it up online.
Again, a Billy Wilder film. The other is Panic in the Street with Elia Kazan movie.
Film noir.
And it's a lot of location shooting in New Orleans. And the basic storyline is a guy who has plague.
Yeah.
And they find his body floating in off the dock in New Orleans, and they're trying to track down who he had seen. And Jack Palance is in that. Zero Mostel, and there are some really stunning shots in there. I mean, long takes. And maybe the other one would be, and I don't know if you've shown that down at the Apollo, is Orson Welles.
Which one?
Where they're in California. They're in Venice, California.
Touch of Evil?
Touch of Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is...
known for its classic opening shot.
Absolutely, yeah.
We don't want to
yeah,
give it
you
away.
did show it down there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah, we've shown that.
It's like a crane shot.
Right.
And they're showing it at street level, and then the crane goes up over a building and follows the car. Incredible. And I've been to Venice, California, and that, in my travels, if I've seen a scene in a movie, I'll try to go to where that movie was shot. Mm-hmm. So in Vertigo, I've been to San Juan Bautista, and I've seen the mission there. So
have you been to the Bradbury Building in L.A.?
Yes, I have.
See, there's another one.
Yeah.
So more recently in Blade Runner.
The first I've tried to watch that. I didn't care for it.
I did not see the new one.
No, I haven't seen. I started to watch the old one. And I thought I'm wasting my time. So at my age,
you can't like them all, Henry.
That's right.
Well, those are good films, and then certainly that's a film noirish group you've got there. So that might be something we'll have to. I was telling you, we try to find themes for these things because the library now has been very open to doing that every March. And March is a good month to do that because I'll just tell you, this last month, and now we can say it's past, no 2 weeks were alike in the month of March. If you take the Saturdays, there were 5 of them in March. And I can tell you right now, having gone to the library each and every Saturday in the month of March, one day it was St. Patrick's Day, and it was a big crowd, and more in the bars than in the library. Another day was 7 inches of snow, because that shortened the library day. We couldn't show Man Bait, which was the one we were going to run. And the other day was a typical March day in the month of, in the downtown Peoria, and wasn't anybody there. It was, pretty quiet. But usually something going on in the month of March. Weather is very changeable. But, well, Henry, we're going to roll out here because we try to keep you contained to 1 or 2 topics and get you more next time.
All right.
Any last words?
Yeah, I would like to a couple. Here we've been talking about film, which is a diversion that I've wasted a good part of my life doing.
You say wasted?
Yeah, well, I mean, as a young kid, I remember going to the matinee theater, matinee on Saturday afternoon at the Esquire Theater, 14 cents to get into the movie. And for a quarter, you got to see the movie, and you got a box of popcorn. And
That's
with
not a
that
bad
penny,
deal.
you got that little plastic or wax bottle of penny nibs. You remember that with that sugary water in it that rotted your teeth.
That's what you need.
But I have wasted a good part of my life, for the diversion of film. Bill Moyers, I mean, he'd certainly be critical of that. But the other thing I'd like to point out, while we've been talking here, it's like deja vu. And what I mean by that, if you watch the morning news, this latest thing with Syria, and we have two leaders, one totally inexperienced, Trump, and Trump's advisor, again, Bolton, he's got his ear, never saw a war I didn't like. And then we have a guy over in Russia who likes to run around with his shirt off and ride horseback. He's macho. So, they're toe-to-toe. Now, let's turn back the clock, October 1962. All right, so...
Cuban Missile Crisis.
So we have 2 leaders, one, Jack Kennedy, who'd seen the horrors of war, Khrushchev, who had seen the horrors of war, too. I don't think he was involved as far as military is concerned, but he was high up in the Russian government.
Sure.
And Russia, if anybody, knew the horrors of war.
Oh, my God, yes.
Yeah. They saw more destruction than what...
So you see a parallel here?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And you hope it turns out like it did in 62.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we are on and the power that they have, the military power to destroy one another, and us with it.
Right. Right.
It's frightening if you really stop and think about it.
Right.
But, we can talk about film and how it was.
Well, we have to have these diversions or we get very depressed, Henry.
Well,
Let's face
I
it.
get depressed anyway.
Well, we enjoy having you on. We don't get depressed listening to you because
right.
you're just it's nice to have somebody talk about things that people can understand, and you've been around a while, so that's what we want to do here.
Well, what I tell my grandkids, and I tell this to other young people too. I belong to the Riverplex, and I go down there and I'll talk with the young lifeguards. And my grandkids, I said, I try to tell you about things and make you aware of things that you may not find out on your own. All right. And so that's what I do with the young kids down there. They'll be listening to something on the radio and say, "Hey, do you know anything about jazz?" And you ever hear of Louis Armstrong? Ever hear of Billie Holiday? And once in a while, once in a while it sinks in.
Yeah.
And the experience, and there's so many experiences that young people can enjoy now or participate in or listen to.
Right.
Sure. Tom Friedman used to talk about, he was frequently a guest on Charlie Rose. He says when he was a young kid growing up in Minneapolis, he said, you had to go some distance to find something to get in trouble with. Now that trouble
trouble will find you.
Trouble's a click away.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Well, Henry, once again, thank you very much. We'll keep our eyes open for you at the I won't say the Apollo because I don't know how often they're running movies there, but whenever we share movies and movie thoughts and there's always a good book around to look up the movie about. So we thank you. This is Steve Tarter. I want to thank Matt Dayhoff at the controls here, and we'll see you next time on Tarter Sauce.